There's a moment, right after a fight ends, when nobody in the arena knows what to feel. Not the crowd, not the commentators. Sometimes not even the man left standing. That's the moment we're starting with. A hand goes up, a body doesn't. And for one full second, the loudest room in Las Vegas goes almost silent, because what just happened wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this, not against him. Somewhere in that silence is a relationship most of the crowd didn't even know existed. Two men who'd stood on the same side of the cage before they ever stood on opposite sides of it. And by the time this story is over, you'll understand why that detail changes everything about how this fight should be remembered. For now, all you need to know is this. The champion lost, and the man who beat him wasn't a stranger. Before he was the bell, Damien Dibbell was just a guy trying to figure out what he was good at. Ruskin isn't a fight town. It's small, unglamorous, the kind of place people are from, rather than a place people go looking for champions. Dibble worked the kind of jobs that don't end up on highlight reels, moving furniture, fac work, low-voltage construction, a stretch making pizzas, a stretch at Panera. Nothing about that resume screams future heavyweight champion. That's sort of the point. Slap fighting found him late by his own account, only a couple of years before he'd be standing across from the best heavyweight in the sport. No decade-long amateur career, no childhood dream chased since he was 6 years old. Just a guy who turned out to be built for something nobody could have predicted, including him. That gap between where he started and where this story ends is worth sitting with for a second, because it's the whole engine of what's coming. This isn't a chosen one story, it's a nobody saw this coming story. And those hit differently. While Dibble was still finding his footing, Wolverine Bata already had a following. Wolverine won his first Power Slap heavyweight title, the hard way, headlining the promotion's very first event against a genuine rival, Darius the Destroyer Mata Verona, a guy he'd already gone back and forth with before Power Slap existed. Beating him wasn't just a win. It was personal, and Wolverine has said as much, that going up against someone he already had history with, and coming out on top, felt different from any ordinary fight. He didn't stop there. Wolverine headlined the next card too. Then the one after that. 3 main events in a row is not luck, it's a promotion telling you, over and over, that this is the guy people tune in to watch. That's real pressure, the kind that comes from being the reason people buy the ticket. And here's the detail that turns this whole story sideways. For a stretch of that reign, one of the men in Wolverine's corner, coaching him, watching him prepare, learning exactly how he thought about a fight, was Damien Dibbell. We're not going to pretend we know everything about what that relationship looked like behind closed doors. What we do know is enough. Dibble was there, inside the camp, while Wolverine built the reputation that made him nearly unbeatable in the eyes of everyone watching. Whatever Wolverine knew about winning, his assistant coach had a front row seat to it. Keep that in your head. It's going to matter in about 4 minutes. Here's the strange part nobody talks about enough. Coaches don't usually end up fighting the guy they're coaching. That's not how this sport works. It's not how most sports work. But Power Slap 2 needed a heavyweight main event, and the man standing across from the champion was his own assistant. Try to sit in that for a second. From both sides. From Wolverine's side, you've beaten a rival to win the title, you've defended it, and now the promotion is putting your own corner man across from you, someone whose respect you presumably had, someone who'd watched you work. From Dibble's side, you've spent months learning how the best heavyweight in the sport thinks, prepares, and fights, and now you're being asked to use every bit of it against him. Nobody outside that camp knew exactly what tension, if any, sat underneath that matchup, but the framing alone should have been a warning sign that this wasn't a normal title defense. And almost nobody treated it like one, because on paper, Wolverine was still the guy who'd never lost the belt, the 3-time main eventer. The name people were paying to see. Dibble was still just the guy in the corner. That gap between how the fight was expected to go and what the two men actually knew about each other is where this story lives. Fight night. The walkouts. The stare down before the first slap, the kind of moment where a crowd goes quiet, not because nothing's happening, but because everything's about to. Slap fighting doesn't give you rounds to figure your opponent out. It gives you one turn, then your opponent's turn, then yours again, and somewhere in that exchange, the entire fight can end in a single strike. There's no clock to run out, no distance to create. You stand there, and you take it, and then you give it back. Wolverine had size, reputation, and a track record. Dibble had something harder to measure: months of proximity to exactly how the champion prepared, and whatever quiet self-belief that access gave him. Then it happened. One connect. Clean, sudden, and final in the way this sport always is. Wolverine went down. The crowd that came expecting a coronation got a stunned kind of silence, instead the kind that takes a beat before it turns into noise. The bell had just done what nobody in that building thought was possible walking in, and he'd done it, in part, with knowledge nobody else in the challenger's position could have had. What happened next says almost as much about both men as the fight itself. Wolverine didn't disappear, and he didn't get bitter about it. He's talked about slap fighting as a 50-50 sport, the kind of thing where the best guy doesn't win every single time, and where losing the belt doesn't erase what you built. He dropped back down to light heavyweight, the weight class he'd fought at for most of his career before ever stepping up to face Darius, and kept competing. Kept headlining, in fact a fourth straight main event, this time in a different weight class entirely. Whatever losing that belt cost him, it didn't cost him his career, or apparently his perspective. Dibble, meanwhile, did something that's much harder than winning a title. He kept it. Not for a few months. Not for one lucky defense. He held the heavyweight championship for well over 1,000 days, defending it again, and again, and again, building the kind of run that turns a surprise winner into the guy everyone else in the division has to go through. What started as an upset became, over time, simply the new normal. The kid from Ruskin with the pizza shop resume became the standard the entire heavyweight class was measured against. So go back to that frozen second from the top of this video, the raised hand, the silence, the moment nobody in the building fully understood yet. Now you know what they didn't, that the man who ended a champion's reign had spent months standing in his corner first. That the upset everyone remembers as sudden had actually been building quietly, rep by rep, long before fight night. Maybe that's the real lesson buried in this whole story. Championships don't always fall to the loudest challenger, or the one with the longest resume. Sometimes they fall to the one person who was close enough to actually understand what they were up against, because history isn't always written by the strongest fighter. Sometimes it's written by the one who knew the champion better than anyone else in the building.